right, so let's go ahead and start, right? It's 7:32. So again, if you're here for the accounting session, the information session, thank you so much for joining us. So we'll have some good information for you tonight. So first, just let me introduce myself. My name is Sarah O'Rourke. I'm an instructor in the accounting department. I went to Rutgers. I graduated in 2003. I worked in public accounting, I worked in industry, private accounting for a couple of years. After graduation, I did the stay-at-home thing with my kids for a number of years when they were little, so I got to do that. I've been at Rutgers for about 11 years, so I taught here part-time for a long time, and last year I went full-time. So I've been here, like I said, for about 11 years. I love it here. I'm very lucky to be here. I love accounting, so we're all here tonight to talk to you about accounting. And let me just introduce the other people on the session, because I know we'll get a variety of questions. So we'll have, a variety of people to help answer. So you have, from my perspective, I have a couple of accounting majors here to answer your questions from a student perspective. And then if you have, questions more related to schedules, specific things like that, we also have people here that can answer those types of questions. So let me just go through everybody and you can kind of just say hi when I introduce you, right? So we have Matt Pyrek, right? He is the coordinator of, there's Matt, right? He's the coordinator of student experience and engagement in the RBS Dean's office. And then we have Christine Yanuzzi.
Right? Hi, everybody. I recognize some. Excited to see that you joined this session.
So Christine's an admissions officer in the undergraduate dean's office. And then I have 3 students here. So I have Sam Vasiliev. I'm not sure if I said that right, Sam. I know we practiced before the session, but
yeah, it was perfect. Hi, everybody.
Sam's here. He's a junior accounting major. So he'll be able to answer some questions from a student perspective. And then we have Karen Wong.
Hi.
That's Karen. She's an accounting major, also a senior. She's president of Beta Alpha Psi, which is a business fraternity here at Rutgers. So she'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that. And then we have Joseph Stoneback.
Hi, everybody.
So he's also a senior accounting major. He's the president of Beta Alpha Psi. So he'll be able to also speak about Beta Alpha Psi a little bit later in the presentation. So I have a PowerPoint just to go through a couple of topics. I'm going to share that with everyone now. And again, we'll talk about, I want to start with career options, just different things you can do with accounting. We'll go through required courses. I wanted some of our accounting majors to talk about their experiences, if they use the different recruiting resources at Rutgers to help find internships. And then we'll talk about Beta Alpha Psi, as I said, and then also the CPA exam and, obtaining your CPA license if that's something you might be interested in. So let me just share the PowerPoint and make sure everyone can see it. You can all see that, right? You can see. Can you see the PowerPoint now? Is it showing up? Christine, can you see, am I sharing my screen? What do you see?
Yeah,
I see it perfectly fine.
Okay, you can see it. So can everyone, again, you can send in through the chat box, right? We can see the PowerPoint. I just want to make sure I'm sharing it before I go off talking about it, right? So, all right, good to know. And just a few reminders for the session. So just everyone should have been muted on entry, but if you can make sure you stay muted, just because you'd be surprised how much background noise we pick up if you're not. So if we have anybody with their mic on, it leads to a lot of distracting noise, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen. The session is being recorded, so you can reference it later if you want to. You may prefer to turn off your camera for that reason. But again, I set it so they don't believe the camera should be on the recording. Our session is planned from 7:30 to 9. So again, the presentation I would estimate would take about a half an hour, and then we'll just open it up for questions and answers. As I'm talking, If there's anything you have questions about, feel free to send them in through the chat feature at the bottom right of your screen. So again, any and all questions, we have people monitoring the chat. Some we may just respond right in the chat window, so just write right back to you. Others we may, someone may address to me or someone else during the presentation, so we can answer it during the talk itself. So again, feel free to send in any and all questions as I'm talking, but we'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions and answers as well. All right, so let's talk about accounting. And again, I thought we'd talk just first briefly, again, just a really broad overview, but career options. So, if you're interested in accounting, it would be helpful to know, what can I do with it, right? I'm interested in accounting. I like the topic. I think I might want to take some classes, but realistically, when I'm done with college and I graduate, what will I be able to do with it? And the one thing I always say about accounting is, right, I always tell people this, the thing I love about accounting is there's just so many things you can do with it. And even if you go in a particular direction and you decide you don't love it, there's just so many options out there, right? There's accountants everywhere. So public accounting, private accounting, right? We'll talk about all these things, but I feel like accounting is one of those careers or majors where it's always in demand. And because of that, there's just a lot of different places you can work with it. So let's talk about public accounting first, because many students, when they pursue accounting as a major, this is a place where a lot of people start. And what public accounting means is a variety of different things, but this is where you could work as an auditor. You may instead go the tax route where you're preparing client tax returns. It's all different types of services that you provide to clients. And again, what is an audit? That means you have a client and they need someone to go through their records essentially and review things or test things to make sure everything looks okay. And that's what you do. So you go to a client, right? You comb through their records. You ask about certain things on a test basis. In terms of taxes, right? We all kind of know what tax is, but you could work with large tax clients, small tax clients, and preparing tax returns. And then there's just a whole other variety of business services that accounting firms provide to their clients. And you hear a lot about the big four firms. So these are the biggest accounting firms out there. And for many students, this is where they look to start. And it's a great place to start. So we have Deloitte, right? Ernst & Young, EY, KPMG, and PwC opportunities because you get exposure to a lot of large clients, interesting clients, right? Big companies that we've all heard of. It's a great place to start. It's great for your resume. Some people start out there and really love it. Other people may feel like that's not their interest, right? And we'll talk about that next. And typically to work in public accounting, you would need to obtain your CPA license. So I wanted to talk about that too. I'll kind of save that for the end of the presentation. I have some separate slides just about the CPA, but typically, right, CPA, certified public accountant. So if you work in public accounting and you stay there, that's something that your firm would be looking for you to get. So that's public. And again, I kind of focused on the big firms first, but then I also like to mention, right, public accounting is more than large accounting firms. And I always like to point this out because the path I took, I interviewed with the big four. It seemed like a good opportunity, but at the end of the day, it didn't seem like the right fit for me. And I felt a little uneasy about that decision because so many people seemed to feel like that was the best place to start your career. But there's a lot of medium-sized firms and small firms out there, and you can have a fantastic career at smaller accounting firms. It's a different experience, but you can make good money. You can work on a variety of different types of clients. The thing I always liked about working at a smaller firm was that by the end of my second or third year, I was running my own audits from start to finish. And again, one is not better than the other, but in a big firm, maybe you're a small part of a very large audit. In a medium-sized firm, the clients are much smaller, the audits are much smaller, but you're running the whole thing from start to finish by the time you're 2 or 3 years in. And I really liked that. I worked for a firm called Wilkin & Guttenplan in East Brunswick. There are many, many others. You'll see them when you go to career fairs, and it's definitely worth checking out. Again, a big firm is not better than a small firm or vice versa. It really just depends on preference. So when you're thinking about different job opportunities, you have to think about what you would like best. Because at the end of the day, this is a place you're going to spend a lot of time, right? So you want to make sure it's something you'll be happy with. A big firm is a different experience from a smaller firm. It's different types of clients. So you just have to think about, what type of environment you like and what might be interesting to you. So many people, again, many students, they graduate with an accounting degree in public accounting. Again, there seems to be kind of a push. It's kind of a natural starting place, but that's not your only option for sure. And again, this is why I said with accounting, one of the things I love about it is there's just so many things you can do. So if you don't feel like public's the right fit for you, or maybe even if you start in public and you didn't love it after a couple of years, that's what happened to me, right? I worked in public for 4 years. My firm was awesome, but they treated me very well, but the work wasn't right for me. So then you have, what I guess you would call private or industry accounting. So if you think about pretty much any company out there, big or small, they all have accounting departments, right? They all need people to keep the books and provide financial information. So you can work at any type of company, and this is the cool thing about it is it's all different types of industries. You're not stuck with any particular industry, and it's the same thing for public too. Public accounting firms have such a wide variety of clients, so you can work on so many different types of companies as your client. And it's the same thing with private. And when we say private, what I mean is, you're working in the accounting department of that company. So you're recording the transactions, you're preparing the financial statements. You might be doing budget versus actual analysis where you get to the end of the month and you look to see what expenses are different from budget. And, you have to explain why. You might prepare revenue and expense forecasts where you're helping managers make decisions and, talk about what the future looks like. So the difference is you're not going out to different clients, but rather you're working in the accounting department of one specific company and doing their accounting on a monthly basis, right? So monthly financials, right? All the necessary entries. And it's really a wide range of responsibilities. It depends on the company. But again, every company has an accounting department. So what industry interests you? It could be a large restaurant chain. It could be a small company. It could be a pharmaceutical company. I worked in the accounting department of a software company and I worked in the accounting department of a bank. So there's just so many different places you can work because there's a demand for accountants, right? Everybody needs someone to do the accounting. So this is another option. And again, some people might start out here right out of school. Other times, people work in public for a few years and then they decide they'd like a change of pace. But this is definitely something worth considering as well. And then in addition, right, it's not just, public versus private, but there's governmental. So just like every for-profit business out there has an accounting department, state and local governments, they all have accounting departments too. They have records, they need to have things that need to be recorded. So there's the governmental aspect, right? And, those accounting rules are a little bit different, but you can be an accountant for your local state or government, local government, state government. There's lots of positions and roles for that type of work too. A lot of people ask me about forensic accounting or investigative accounting. That's kind of a hot topic these days. And forensic could mean a lot of different things, but it's basically investigating accounting records. And again, it's not always exciting as it sounds, right? So sometimes, people like to, think of the FBI and helping to solve crimes, and sometimes that's what it is, right? But it can also be things just like divorce accounting, where if, there are accountants that handle divorce cases and look through the spending habits of both parties, and right, it could be that type of forensic accounting as well. You can work for the IRS. So there's lots of different options. But again, that's the good thing with accounting is, there's lots of things available to you. And just because you start down one path, it doesn't mean that you have to continue. You can, you try out one particular role and maybe it's a great fit, maybe it's not. You have lots of options. if you would like to do something else. Like I said, lots of different types of clients, lots of different industries, right? There's always a need for accountants, right? Big companies need their audits done, they need their taxes prepared, right? Everybody has an accounting department. So there's a lot of demand out there, and it's just a wide variety of things you can do with it. So I figured I'd pause here because we've kind of got the basic overview, but I figured I'd just ask each of our accounting majors just to talk about, maybe where you've worked before, if you used Rutgers Career Services to help you find the job, right? What did you do? What type of company? What type of work? Just so we could hear it from a student perspective. So maybe Sam, do you want to go first and, just tell us about what you've done so far?
Yeah, sure. So currently, I work at a software company. I work in one of their accounting departments because they have like a lot of different accounting functions. So each department kind of specializes in one part of the company's accounting. I didn't personally use the Rutgers Career Services, but that's just because I didn't know they were there until after I got my job. But I know that there are a lot of services that Rutgers offers, and they are pretty vast and good at bringing those offers to you.
Did you want to mention you have you're president of a fraternity, right? Did you want to?
Yeah. I mean, on campus, there's also a lot of things that you can add to your resume. A bunch of organizations, literally like thousands of clubs and organizations that you can join. Like I myself am in a fraternity. I'm the president of Phi Mu Delta, and that's just one of the things you can do. But there's definitely a lot of things on campus that you can look into as well.
Thank you. Let's see. So Karen, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences so far?
Yeah, so for all of my internships I found through Rutgers Handshake are the Business Night, which are two websites that Rutgers like runs where they post job openings on there. So I actually had a lot of experience interning in different parts of accounting. My first internship, I was the accounting intern at a small medical company in Somerset. And I also did a tax internship with a middle-sized firm called Cohn Resnick. And for the last two internships, I've been doing financial services audits at Deloitte and EY. So I've had like different experiences doing different like service lines and working for different size firms. And it's been pretty great so far.
That's good to hear. All right, and then what about Joe? Do you want to share with us kind of what you've been doing so far?
Yeah, for sure. So I have pretty much one internship I've already completed and one I'll be doing actually this summer. If it doesn't completely get shut down by the coronavirus, still praying.
You work online, hopefully.
Yeah, well, yeah, they actually started. It's going to be a virtual internship at this point,
It
which
should be interesting for the internships, the whole online.
yeah, I gotta adapt. I'm ready for it. But yeah, so the one internship I have worked currently, I worked with all last year at Rutgers Audit and Advisory Services. So pretty much this was a full year internship from January through December of 2019. And it was really great experience. So I started out as an internal auditor with Rutgers University, but actually throughout most of the summer, I I pretty much go under KPMG's wing, which is one of the big four public accounting firms, and I worked as an external auditor on Rutgers University with them. So this was just a great opportunity to get like kind of both sides of public accounting versus like internal auditing, which is pretty much like or being a public auditor versus internal auditor, which are similar in certain ways, but not similar in other because you're working on the company you work for. Like, so there's definitely a lot of differences there. But yeah, and then also this summer, which is going to be virtual now, I'm going to be working with EY in their tax division.
Okay. So again, if any of you on this session, if you have questions just about what their job experiences were like or anything, or, how did they find the interview process to be, again, feel free to send those in and we can answer them. Right. So now that we've talked about careers, why don't we just talk a little bit about the classes you would take if you decided to major in accounting? And again, I'm not going to get anything, too detailed, but just to give a basic overview. So again, anyone considering a business major, so anything, accounting, finance, marketing, right? So we have what's called the pre-business courses, and these are 6 courses you have to take before you would declare your major. So we have introduction to financial accounting, which is, your very first, right, introductory accounting class. There's computer applications for business. You have micro and macroeconomics. You have calculus in there, and then your introductory statistics course. So again, these are all courses that you have to take before you declare your major. And the introduction to financial accounting, if you're planning to become an accounting major, you need to get at least a B in that class to be able to declare your major as an accountant. And then from there, so once you've declared your major, we have what's called the required business courses. And these are courses that essentially anyone in the business school takes. There's certain variations, but so these are 35 credits, and these are all just general business courses. So you can see, we have managerial accounting at the top, so that's another accounting class. But then everything else, again, it's kind of a wide variety of different types of classes, and that's just to give you a basic business background, right? A well-rounded, just covering all different types of topics. So you have business forum, which is a really useful class, right? From what I know, they bring in all types of guest speakers, and you talk about different topics related to business, different relevant topics. You have your business law or business ethics, financial management, introduction to management, management skills. So you have a couple of different management classes in there. And then these are continued on the next slide. So again, you have business policy and strategy. You have management information systems. You have a second statistics class, operations management, intro to marketing, and then intro to supply chain. So again, you're kind of getting a little bit of everything with the required core business courses. And then from there, alongside these courses, essentially you're taking your classes for the accounting major. Right. So this again is where you really get specific. And again, so if you're an accounting major, you'd be taking these alongside your core courses. You have intermediate accounting, which essentially follows, right? That kind of comes after introductory, that builds on the first introductory accounting class you take. You have accounting information systems. Then you have intermediate 2, right, which follows intermediate 1. Cost accounting, which is basically the extension of managerial accounting. We have concepts of auditing, income tax, advanced accounting, audit analytics, which previously was an elective, but now I believe it's a required course. So those are all your required courses. And I have 2 topics in income taxation here. That's not a required course, but it's a recommended elective just because the tax topics covered there are very relevant to the CPA exam, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So you don't have to take it, but it's recommended that you do, just because, again, the topics there are very useful for anyone going into tax or going into public that's planning to take the CPA exam. That's an overview of the courses. And then what I have here, maybe Karen and Joe can tell us a little bit about, just getting involved. So in terms of accounting, what organizations are out there. So Beta Alpha Psi is a business honor society, which a lot of our accounting students join. So Karen and Joe, do you guys want to just talk a little bit about Beta Alpha Psi?
Karen, you want to start it off?
Yeah, so like Beta Alpha Psi is a business honor society here that we have here at Rutgers. And basically the mission of our organization is to help accounting students develop all the skills they need to be successful at their internships or their jobs. And we also focus on a number of other skills like soft skills and networking, interviewing, and resume workshops, which are all very important. We have 2 meetings every week where we bring in firms such as the Big Four, and we also have like local firms such as Witham and middle-sized firms as well. And we also have like other companies come in. Like in the past, we've had Prudential, J&J, and sometimes we invite CPA review courses such as Becker and Surgeon. If you're sitting for the CPA, like you definitely would know those organizations. But they basically come in, they talk about their companies, and they talk about opportunities that they have for students, such as internships or full-time jobs, and it gives you like a chance to network with recruiters and professionals to expand your network, and hopefully, like if you do enough networking, you'll be able to get a job offer from those organizations. We also do internal events such as the Alumni Networking event. A bunch of our alumni do work for the Big Four and other known firms such as like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. So you would get a chance to talk to them about their experiences. Most of them are in the beginning stages of their career, so they can relate more to you guys. And we also do community service such as Elijah Promise and VITA. VITA is volunteer income tax assistant, in which we go to the New Brunswick Public Library and we help low-income individuals file their taxes. So if you're interested in tax, that's a worthy activity that we do that will help you learn more about tax law and filing tax returns. Joe, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I actually saw in the chat somebody asked what are the requirements. So specifically, first and foremost, you have to be either an accounting, finance, or business analytics and information technology major. You don't necessarily need to be accounting, although we are heavily accounting driven. It's not a requirement to just be like have the accounting major, as long as you're one of those three. Also, when you first sign up, you are considered an eligible candidate, so you're not an inducted member yet. So if you come in your freshman year, you attend these meetings, you have to have at least 70% attendance at the meetings as an eligible candidate, and you have to be able to maintain a 3.0 GPA in both your major courses. So if you're an accounting major, like the actual accounting courses that count towards your major, and your cumulative GPA. Those both need to be a 3.0 to be considered for induction, and they need to maintain 3.0 for the entirety of your tenure with Beta Alpha Psi. And then most people end up getting inducted the end of their junior year. We usually have the banquet in the spring. We were actually supposed to have it about a week from now, but obviously due to the conditions, we had to cancel it. But yeah, so the main requirements, either accounting, finance, or BATE major, maintain 70% attendance at our meetings, and maintain a 3.0 GPA in both either your accounting, finance, and BATE major courses, while also maintaining a 3.0 GPA cumulatively through all of your courses. Those are if you do all those things, you will be inducted, pretty much.
We have a community service requirement as well. You have to participate in sessions of VITA with us. And that is also a good networking opportunity within like our peer group. I saw a question here where it was most common minor for accounting students. A lot of accounting students at RVS either double major in finance and BATE. So since we're a group of students who are one of those three majors, it's kind of like an awesome thing to just find people that have the same interests as you, and also like have had experience interning at certain firms that you would want to have a job opportunity with. I know me and Joe have reached out to like older members who have helped us with our like internship search, and like helped us pick out classes and give us like general advice about what we should be doing with our professional and academic careers. So it was like a great opportunity for both of us.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that the Rutgers Business School actually doesn't offer minors. They offer what are called concentrations. So whereas a minor will usually be about 18 credits or so, these are a little bit more compact. They're usually like 9 to 12 credits, so it'd be 3 to 4 courses, and they offer it. There isn't one offered in accounting, but I know they offer it in finance, real estate, entrepreneurship, global business. There's a few more I'm probably missing, but yeah, you could definitely just look up like Rutgers Business School, New Brunswick concentrations, and you can look at all of those curriculums. So you can potentially add one of those to if you plan on being an accounting major, but still want to get more of a diverse background. I know there's actually 2 different BATE ones. I think one's business analytics and management information systems. So if you do want to expand your knowledge on some key areas in business, but don't want to go the full major, a concentration is probably what would be most helpful for you.
Yeah, and the concentrations are kind of like minors in which you only take like 3 to 5 additional classes. So if you're trying to get the 150, it's definitely helpful to add a concentration if you just don't want to do a second major.
So let me ask, what are you guys doing in terms of the 150? Because I see I have some questions about that. So are you planning to finish your 150 with a master's, or are you going to have it done with a double major? So how are you, if any of you are doing your CPA or planning to do the CPA, what's your plan for the 150 credits?
So you can go first, Karen.
Thanks, Joe. For me, I came in with a couple credits from high school, so I was already kind of ahead of it, and I was able to squeeze in about 140 credits within 4 years, which is kind of insane. I mean, I did take a couple summer classes, which helped, but it's mainly I did the 4 years because I know how to manage my time and I know what I can take on regarding like class loads. Yeah, like the 150, for the big four, I see a question here. Whenever the year you get your 150 is the year that the big four and a lot of the accounting firms will recruit on. Like when they say like junior year internships, it's like the year before you achieve your 150, and it's like kind of like a strict requirement with a lot of the accounting firms now. So it's important to note that when you like plan out like your career and you decide to like apply to things.
So yeah, I have definitely a different path than Karen. I didn't come in with any AP credits, so I was starting fresh, and then I knew I'd be an accounting major coming in, or at least I heavily thought I was, and that's what I was considering most. But I didn't know I was going to sit for the CPA exam probably until my late sophomore year. So I had to really start picking up the pace a lot. So I was pretty much just taking summer courses, trying to take, 18 credits a semester pretty much. And then also I'm actually not graduating this semester. I'm graduating in the fall. So I'm pretty much just staying an extra semester to get that 150, and I'm going to make it. So better late than never. So.
And then I just
kind of funny.
Oh, what'd you say?
I was going to say that's kind of funny because I came in as a finance major and I ended up just doubling in finance and accounting. And I didn't declare accounting until junior year. So I really had to squeeze everything in. But I already did like most of my business core like as an underclassman. So that's how I kind of figured it out that way.
Because I came in as an accounting major, and then once I found out I was going to do the 150, I was like, let's just double major in finance and accounting, because we're both accounting and finance majors, so we kind of took like opposite roads there.
And then just to add another perspective, because I do sense, or what I see is that a lot of students, because the idea with this 150 credit hour requirement, you don't have to obtain a master's degree or anything like that. It's, you need the accounting background, but it can be 150 credits. Those extra 30 credits can pretty much be in anything. So I do see a lot of students just taking extra classes, taking summer classes to try to fit it all in the 4 years or maybe just beyond. But there are other alternatives if you don't feel like that pace is for you. And I think, students have different motivations for doing it that way. My path, what I did, so just to give another perspective is, I was in school when this rule actually went into effect. So a few years before it was, you could become a CPA with 120. And when I was in school, I don't even think I knew about the 150 credit hour requirement until I was a junior. So it was a very new thing back then. But my feeling was that if I was going to get an extra 30 credits, I wanted to get an extra degree out of it. So that's definitely an option too. I know a lot of students do try to fit everything in the 3 years, and there's certainly something to be said for that, but it's a tough pace. So I just did my normal, 4-year undergraduate degree in accounting, and then I graduated and I started working. And then I did a 30 credit master's program at Seton Hall, because at the time that was one of the only schools that even had a program out there for this particular objective, because it was just such a new thing. I don't even think at the time Rutgers may not have had a master's program in place because it was this really new requirement. But I did a 30 credit master's program that was designed for for people that were working full time, it was a lot of night classes, and I completed it in about 2 years. The good thing I can say with that, though, is those classes I took in the master's program, it's good because I did 30 credits and I got a degree out of it. But also, once you start working, those classes that I took as a part of the master's program, they really meant a lot more because I was working and I had something to apply them to. So I think that's a really good option to consider for people that want to take the extra time. And some people will do the 5-year master's, and again, that's where you finish and you go right into the 5th year of school. So you get everything done in 5 years, and then maybe you start working full time. Or you can start working right out of undergrad, and then you can look into doing a part-time master's. Again, it took me 2 years. I did it at night, but it meant I really felt like I got a lot out of those classes because I was taking them at night while working, and I was seeing what I did in my job and how it applied to my classes. So there's all different ways you can do it. I think you just have to think about what's right for you. Karen said she's good at managing her time, and she didn't have a problem with the pace of fitting all the credits into 4 years, but it's certainly not for everyone. So there's all different options. If you're interested in getting that extra degree, the master's or the MBA, that's certainly something worthwhile to consider too. So you just have to think about what the right mix is for you. So again, there's lots of different ways to do it. And let's talk about the CPA, right? Since we're talking about the 150. I have next. So again, a lot of students who major in accounting, and I don't want to push that you have to become a CPA, because although it is a very respected credential, again, public accounting, the CPA profession, it's not for everyone. So as accounting majors, we hear a lot about becoming a CPA, right? The CPA license. But it's not what everyone has to do, but because so many students are interested in it. So again, if you go into public accounting, even private accounting, even if you go to work for a larger company, right, just in their accounting department, and you're not going the public accounting route, right, you're not doing the audit or the tax, but still, even some private companies will look for you to have your CPA just because it is such a respected credential. So again, certified public accountant. So to take the exam in New Jersey, you can sit for the exam with 120 credits. So you don't have to get the 150 before you would take the CPA exam. So again, how do you become a CPA? So, you need to pass the CPA exam. And again, you can sit for the CPA exam with 120 credits in order to get your CPA license. So to become a licensed CPA, that's where you need to complete the 150. So right now in New Jersey, and again, it varies by state. Some states don't allow you to sit until you have the 150. But in New Jersey, you can sit for the exam with 120. That's what I did, right? I took it with 120. It took me a couple years to finish my credits. And again, in terms of requirements, right, you're required to have a certain number of accounting credits and business credits in order to take the exam. You don't, though, again, we said you don't have to have the 150 just to sit for the exam. You need 120 to take it. The 150, again, is to become licensed as a CPA. And we just, we talked a lot about the 150 credits, the different ways to do it. From your undergrad, those extra 30 credits, it doesn't have to be an extra degree. It doesn't have to be a master's, although it's certainly an option. But again, those credits can really kind of be in anything, which is why you see some students doing the double major, right, just to try to finish it. And then in addition to passing the exam, so there's 4 sections, right? Audit and attestation, financial accounting and reporting, regulation, and then business environment and concepts. So again, those sections, right, you can sit for one at a time, but you do have to pass all 4 within a certain window of time. And then in addition to passing the exam, you have to have work experience. So it's typically 1 year of experience in public accounting or something equivalent, right? You have to be getting some type of public accounting experience. You need 1 year's worth of work experience. And again, the CPA, it's a highly desired credential. It's certainly worth considering. A lot of people are intimidated by the exam itself, but I don't know if any of you students are studying for the exam currently or if you've taken any sections, but I think it's a matter of putting in the time and effort. Right, so it's not that any of the material is so difficult, but it's a lot of time to study and and learn the required material to pass those sections. But once you do, right, it's this great credential and it can really be helpful in terms of your career and things that you can do. So it's definitely worthwhile. Have any of you, again, studied for part or taken part of the exam? Or are you planning to take part of the exam anytime soon?
Right now I'm studying for FAR, which stands for Financial Accounting and Reporting. And I'm hoping to sit for it in July, but I don't know because of coronavirus.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, how they're handling that.
They
So
just
right now you
recently
have it
took out
scheduled for July and that's still on.
they recently just took out the blackout periods for the exams after July. So hopefully I'll be able to get it done a little faster if it stays open.
Let's see, are there any questions in the chat? Let's see. Are there any questions we haven't answered in terms of just?
You guys covered a lot of them. There is a question, what is the difference of being licensed compared to not being licensed?
So working, let's see. So being licensed as a CPA or just not? Well, licensed, so just to take that question, so licensed as a CPA means that basically what we've talked about on the last two slides is that you've earned this credential. So a licensed CPA is someone that's achieved certain things. So again, the big thing is really passing the exam. So you've passed this exam, right? And there's 4 parts, right? So you have to pass each of these 4 parts, right? And again, it's a broad range of topics, right? You can see it covers all different related to accounting. It's basically everything you've learned in school and then some. So to be a licensed CPA, right, you have to pass all 4 parts of the exam. You need a little bit of work experience. We've talked about the educational requirement, right, the 150. So that means you're licensed as a CPA. And typically, anyone that's working in public accounting, you don't have to have it for starting out, but to be in a public accounting firm where you're doing audits or taxes or providing any of those types of services to clients, to get past a certain level, right, to move up within the company, you have to have that CPA license, right? So to work in public accounting, that's essentially something that you'll need at some point or you're not going to be able to move forward. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do other types of accounting work, right? You certainly don't need the CPA to do other things. So again, many people that work in, we talked about private accounting or industry, it certainly doesn't hurt to have the CPA license. Even though I don't practice as a CPA anymore, but I still maintain my license, right? Because it's something that I worked hard to get when I was in public accounting. But to work in, say, the accounting department of a company, right, that does not require a CPA license because, again, the CPA is a certified public accountant. So if you're not practicing public accounting, that license is not necessarily something that you'll need. Again, it never hurts to have it, or people that started in public, but you can do lots of other things in accounting. Like I said, work in the accounting department of a company or governmental accounting. Those things don't require a CPA license, right? The CPA is for someone that's really looking to practice in public accounting. That's where you'd need to get licensed, right? And again, pass the exam, the work experience, the educational requirements. But there's certainly many things you can do in accounting and not have that CPA license.
And then we had a question, if you get a license in New Jersey, is that good only for New Jersey, or do you have to test in other states if you were to move in the future?
So this used to be more of an issue, but there's this thing called reciprocity now. Because for a while it was, all the states kind of had these different requirements. So again, back when I was in school and that 150 was such a new thing, there were some states that would still only require 120 credit hours to become a CPA. And then New Jersey had this stricter requirement of 150. But now I think almost any state is 150. The idea is that you get licensed, I believe, in the state where you plan to practice, but it's just like if you have a New Jersey driver's license and then you drive to New York, you don't really need to do anything extra, right? You're driving through New York, but the New Jersey license is still good. So the idea is that if you're licensed in one state, you need to be licensed where your kind of main office is essentially, but you can go practice in other states and that New Jersey license should be good right? If you're going to clients in other states, right? So again, it used to be more of an issue, but I feel like now, because again, it's not really practical, right? If you're in New Jersey, you shouldn't have to, pass a New York exam just to go to a client in New York. So getting licensed in your main place where you practice should be pretty good. And then you have what's called reciprocity, where other states will be okay with that license from New Jersey.
And then another question, are there continuing education requirements that you need to keep once you become a CPA?
Yeah, so there's continuing education. So it's 120 credits every 3 years. So again, I haven't practiced public accounting in a while, right? I worked in public for 4 years. I became a CPA, but I still maintain the license. So that's, again, it's 120 credits every 3 years. It's a minimum of 20 credits per year. So, ideally you would do 40, 40, 40, but you have to do at least 20. It can be all self-study now. So there's all different types of ways that you can do the continuing professional education. There's in-person classes. The New Jersey Society of CPAs offers, a ton of in-person seminars. There's all different types of providers for all different types of topics. Again, I like CPE because you can pick stuff that's interesting to you. I've learned a lot of new things just doing CPE. There are a lot of webinars now where you can log in. It's a live broadcast. There's also self-study, which is where you'll basically read. Sometimes it's material, it's, a couple hundred pages, but you read it, you take a test on it. So it used to be you had to do a certain number of those credits in person. Now you're allowed to do everything, I think almost everything self-study if that's what works best for you. The only requirement I think in terms of topics is every 3 years you have to take a 4-credit ethics course. But other than that, it can just, right? So there's all different types of topics you can learn about. But in a nutshell, right, 20 credit hours to maintain that CPA license. The good thing is if you're working in public accounting, typically your firm will pay for the CPE. They'll give you, you'll take a day of work to go to the class, right? So they're going to give you the time to do it and you're going to get paid to go and they'll pay for the course. So, you can, you fit it into your schedule.
And one student wants to know about how long does it take to prepare for each part of the CPA exam?
I could answer that. So
Yes,
for
why don't you tell us?
For studying, it is a very big time commitment. Right now, I'm studying for FAR, but I'm kind of taking it easier just because I'm still in school right now. But one of my classes I'm taking kind of overlaps with FAR, so I'm learning new material as I go. But my firm provided me with Becker to study, and the recommended Becker studying is for FAR, which is the lengthiest and covers the most material. It takes about 120 hours worth of studying. That's the recommended amount. So, and then for reg, which is basically tax, that's 110 hours. BEC, which is the shortest one, they recommend 90, and for audit they recommend 100 hours of studying. So over the summer when I officially graduate, I'm gonna take it a little more seriously and follow the recommended guidelines, just because it is a lot of material and it is a very hard exam to pass, and it's not something that you could just memorize. You have to understand accounting concepts, and you pay to take the exam, so you don't want to fail it and have to take it again. And you just don't want to also take so much time out of your summer to study for an exam just to fail it as well. Yeah, you could take the exams in any order, but from what I heard from my peers and people I work with at EY, the first one they recommend is FAR, Financial Accounting and Reporting, just because the CPA kind of has an 18-month window. So from when you pass your first exam, you have 18 months until that grade for that exam expires. And since FAR is the most lengthy and includes the most topics, a lot of people start with that one. And also I've heard from my friends that some material on FAR is slightly covered on other exams, just because it's kind of the basics of financial accounting. So it helps to start with FAR first and then audit or reg next, depending on what service line you decide to go to, and then BEC, since a lot of people consider that the easiest, they save it for last.
And then just to add, I think, a lot of people have concerns about passing the exam or how hard it is. I think the key is it's definitely a time commitment, but it's definitely doable. So it's not necessarily anything to be intimidated about, but I think you definitely have to set aside the time. When I took it, it was a little bit different. So it was back in 2003, right? It seems like a long time ago. So when I took it, you had to sit for all 4 parts at once. And you had to pass at least 2 and get at least a 50 on the other 2. But I set aside my whole summer. And I think that's the key, is that if you can take it as soon as possible out of school, or if you can, you need to try to take it at a time when you can set aside the time, right? So it's not, the material is difficult, but really for me, I know the difficulty was just because it was so much information. But if you're organized and you map out a plan for yourself, right, and you can set aside that chunk of time, knowing that once you do it, if you can just pass it and get it done, then it's behind you. So it's definitely doable, but it's a decent time commitment. So you have to figure out a way to set aside that time and make sure you can really commit to it, make a schedule, right, motivate yourself, but it's definitely doable. Again, it's the time. You want to make sure that you do it at a time when you can really commit to studying for it.
Yeah, and I've talked to people who work in public accounting right now who are second years still trying to pass the CPA while working a full-time job, and plus we're in busy season right now. It's really hard for my friends are in that type of position to say for CPA, because by then you've been out of school for 2 years and you're kind of out of habit of studying. Plus as you get promoted at work, you take on a lot more responsibilities. So you won't really have that much time, as much time as you want to study. Plus a lot of firms motivate you to pass your CPA within 1 year starting because they give out bonuses.
Yeah, so there's motivation, right? And I hear that a lot. So the thing is, if you can just get it done, right? Because it's true, the further you get out, the more you're working, the more responsibility, right? Trying to study at night after you already worked a full day, that's tough, right? So it's better to take it. Again, I was really lucky. I graduated in May. I didn't start my full-time job until October. I took the exam in November. But that summer, that was my life, was studying for those 4 parts of the exam. But then it was done and it was behind me, right? So I think if I had not passed all of it, or if I had kind of, stretched it out further, again, the more you start working and it's more hours and responsibility, it's just harder to stay in that student mode where you can just really devote yourself to studying. So again, it's about kind of setting aside the time and just trying to get it done. Do we have any other questions from the chat? Have we missed anything?
I don't think so. I went through them.
Okay. We've talked about the CPA. And then that's essentially it. So again, if you have, questions, feel free to send in any and all questions now. If you think of questions after, if you have specific questions for me, or even if there's something that you want me to forward on to one of the students, here's my contact information. And then if you have Christine as well. So again, if there's other questions, related more, to academic requirements or things kind of outside of accounting, you have her contact information as well. And the session is, right, this session has been recorded. So if you wanted to refer back to it, or if there's I'll show you, I'll post this link in the chat box, and then I'll just, I'll click this link in a second so we can see there were other sessions, right? There's still some going on. So for example, we had a finance session if you were interested in learning more about finance. There's some recorded sessions that have already happened. Let's take a look, because I see we have a question about upcoming information sessions. So let's go real quick. Exit PowerPoint here. I'm gonna copy and paste this link into the chat box, and you'll have, by the way, you should have a copy of the chat along with the recording, so all these questions, and if we answered any of them, and let me see if I can copy and paste this into the chat here, and then we'll actually go take a look. So there's the link. Let's just see.
And if I remember right, I believe there's only one session left on the 21st, and that is about the student experience and engagement opportunities at Rutgers Business School.
Is there one tomorrow?
Also have bait on Saturday morning, 10:30.
Just see. I'm going to share my screen again and see.
Yeah, I pasted the link along with you, Sarah, for the
Okay.
recorded sessions and the remaining sessions.
Can you see my screen again?
Last time I did that, I froze, so hopefully I don't freeze.
Again, if you go to the link that we posted in the chat, and again, it's at the end of my PowerPoint too. So, right, here's our accounting session. So there's one tomorrow on BATE at 10:30, or not tomorrow, but Saturday rather. And then we have one next week, right? Student engagement, mentoring, and careers. So we're kind of at the tail end of all this, and a lot of the sessions have already happened. But if you are interested, some of them have been recorded. So if you keep going down to the bottom of the page, you know, some of them it looks like they weren't recorded and they have a link for you to follow. But for example, finance, right? That whole session was recorded. So you can go here and see, again, if there's sessions that happened last week or the week before, and then you can always watch the recording of that session. So this was the first year presentation. We had innovation and entrepreneurship. We had a marketing sessions. There's a recording for that. Again, it looks like some may not have been recorded, but there's still information. There's a supply chain. So again, you have recordings to all these previous sessions. So ours is one of the later ones. But again, if you missed any of the ones that happened earlier, right, you have the recordings. You can go back and take a look at those. And again, the accounting, this recording will eventually be posted. So you can always go back and reference that as well.
Now, Sam and Joe, can one of you answer the question about double majoring in accounting or another major at RBS?
Do one of you have
I
you guys
mean,
take that since you have good experience with the double major?
Yeah, so me and Jared both double major in finance and accounting, and I don't think the finance major was too bad. The thing is, like, a lot of people at RBS are very competitive and they are very smart, and like the professors are very smart too. But like, most of it comes from what you put into getting that major and like being dedicated to the classes. I know like some of my other finance friends have minored in math or stats just because they were more quantitative finance. It's just up to you. I've had accounting friends that like randomly decided to do a double major in poli sci just because it was like their passion, but like they wanted a career in accounting. So it's really just like up to you and what you know you can handle, because I mean, like, finance wasn't too, I didn't think it was too bad. I know bait is very hard and I'm not a computer person, so I decided not to do that. But I also, like I said before, I started as a finance major and I was already halfway through the degree when I decided to switch into accounting. So I decided to just keep both. And having a finance major really benefited me because I always wanted to work in financial services, and I do audit wealth asset management organizations such as like hedge funds and mutual funds. So that information does come in handy sometimes.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I would definitely say that personally, I thought accounting was more difficult. But what's great about the accounting major is that it's really supplemented the material that I learned in finance. If you are an accounting major and you have that accounting knowledge, you have a huge advantage in the finance major because a lot of it is accounting based. Like they're working with accounting numbers, and a lot of them don't understand like how, when they're looking at a financial statement, really what those numbers are comprised of and how they get those numbers. So being an accounting major really helped with like knowing the back end of what finance majors are really like the numbers they're analyzing. Also, what's cool about the finance major is that there's a lot of electives. There's like for now, accounting majors, there's the 7 you have to take, and there used to be like there's one elective course you can take. But now I'm pretty sure that's audit analytics, right? Now everyone has to take audit analytics.
Yeah, I think it's a requirement now.
Yeah, so I mean that kind of, so it's pretty much set what exact accounting courses you're going to take. But I know for finance, there's only 3 required courses. And then after that, it's 5 electives. And there's a pretty decent amount of classes to choose from there. So that really gives you the opportunity to kind of just go wherever you want with it, depending on whatever position you're looking for. You can really kind of tailor the finance major to a specific position potentially that you're wanting to work in.
Yeah, and there's also a course that counts for finance and double majors. At RBS, you could double lap between one class, and intermediate accounting 1 is one of them, and the other one is analysis of financial statements, which is like pretty cool.
Did you mention intermediate accounting 1? Did you say that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, analysis of financial statements. Well, now analysis of financial statements, I don't know if that'll really double dip anymore, just because now they're required to take audit analytics anyway, right? Potentially. So they already get that. They already have the elective for accounting that they're required to take. So are there no more electives for accounting? Because I haven't really paid attention to it.
It's that second income tax class. That's
I checked that.
Yeah,
Right.
business law
There are
2.
electives you have that you can take, Joe. The thing is, there are no longer any required electives for you to take.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay.
The other accounting electives are helpful though, because I'm sitting for the New York CPA because I'm working in a New York location for EY, and to sit for that exam, you have to have a couple more accounting class electives. So I chose to take the second tax class, which is kind of an unpopular move, but that class helped me decide that I didn't want to work in tax along with my internship. So I guess like it turned out for the best.
Yeah, that's important too, right? And if you are interested in tax, I think that tax class is helpful for the CPA exam, I think, in terms of the material, right? So that's why we encourage people to take it. Again, if you're planning to pursue tax.
Yeah. Reg is like turning more into like the material that's covered in the second tax class, and it's actually really hard.
Yeah,
but it's like really good like stepping stone.
And then you can also take business law 2, which towards the regulation section of the CPA exam, that pretty much just adds on to that, which is definitely very helpful if you do plan on taking the CPA.
And I also just wanted to add on to address another thing about double majoring with accounting and another major at RBS. The nice thing about double majoring within RBS is all those classes that were part of the RBS core that Sarah went over on the presentation would count for that same major, for a different major in RBS. So the RBS core applies for all 6 majors in the business school, so you would only have to focus on major courses and major electives in a secondary major. And also, Christine, can you answer the question about when does class registration start? So talk about APA Day.
So you're going to be receiving an email for what we call an academic planning and advising session. So we're going to break our first year students down into groups where we kind of have a form that's created for you guys because there's thousands of courses for you to choose from. But in your first semester, we really want you to concentrate on 2 pre-business, usually your English class, and general education courses. So we try to keep you to anywhere from 12 to 14 credits. I know when you come in as a first year student, you all look at me and you're anxious and you want to make sure you're going to finish on time, but trust me, this is 1 semester worth of courses. We know what we're doing. We don't want to overwhelm you. Slow and steady wins the race. You will get to 150 if that's what you're looking to do. You will get to your 120 if that's what you're looking to do. But there is something called freshman shock. And the rigor of a college curriculum will be different from that of a high school curriculum. So yes, you can make changes to your schedule after you get your schedule emailed to you in August, but we would strongly encourage and recommend you stick with what the dean and the first year advisors are putting together for you. When you attend an APA day, you're basically letting us learn more about what you like as far as general education classes. Are you a science person? Are you a social science? Are you humanities? We know what you need to complete. So again, you're going to take 2 pre-business courses each semester for the first 3 semesters. Typically, nobody is declaring their major until their second semester of sophomore year. And again, there's a method to the madness. Now you might come in with APA credits, and you can AP out of the first 5 pre-business courses. You cannot AP out of financial accounting. So 2 at a time with your general education semester sophomore year, that's when you're going to gear up and be able to take more credits.
I see a question too about planning to take all of the classes in 4 years. Maybe one of our accounting students could talk about if that was hard to plan, or how did you plan it out to make sure that you would finish everything in the time needed?
I'll let Karen take that question because it took me 4.5 years.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
I mean, like I said before, I came in as a finance major, so I really didn't have the 150 in mind. And to what Christine said, yeah, freshman shock is real.
Thank you.
I took 19 credits my first semester because I'm also in the honors program for Rutgers Business School. And I didn't do as well as I did in high school. I was always a straight A student, and I never really tried hard to do anything. And the first semester of college will just hit you with reality. And after that, like, I thought I wanted to graduate in 3 years. So I did like a bunch of semesters of 18 and 19 credit classes, which is like definitely crazy. But like by my sophomore year, I learned how to manage my time between classes, my social life, and working at the same time. So by the end of my sophomore year, I decided to do accounting. I came in as a junior with already like about 85 credits done. So I just had to like do a bunch of the accounting major classes, and doing like 5 or 6 major classes at the same time is definitely not ideal, considering that they're all difficult in their different ways. I remember my first semester of junior, I took business law, audit, tax, intermediate 2, marketing, and a random elective all together, and it was very difficult for me. So like everybody said in this WebEx chat, like it doesn't matter if you finish 4 or 5 years. A lot of the big 4 and other accounting firms, like they understand if you graduate in 5, they don't really care about that. They just care about you graduating with the 150. So it doesn't really matter how long it takes you to do that. It just depends on who you are as a person and what you can handle. And I know I can handle a lot. So like that's how I did it in 4 years. Plus I came out with like 10 or 12 credits already from APing out. Plus I kind of had like a dual degree program with one of my high school courses. So like that was like 5 credits or 6 credits right off the bat as well. But I mean, like what Joe's doing, 4.5, that's not bad either. Like just do it at your own pace.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that.
Because if you do plan to sit for the CPA exam, all the major classes, like all the material will show up again. Like it's not like a one and done. Like you're going to have to keep studying those topics to get your CPA. So it's like better to try to learn it now. And like there was a question about like how big the classes are. As you like progress through the major, like 300, 400 level classes, the classes do get smaller, especially if you take like tax 2, which is kind of unpopular. I only had 10 people in my class, so there was like a lot of one-on-one time with my professors and like office hours and stuff like that if I really needed the extra help. But yeah, I mean, like 4 or 5 years, like it really doesn't matter to a bunch of companies.
I think it's important to add too. Well, first, let me say that I took 12 credits my first semester freshman year, and I turned out okay. And I thought that, because again, it's a big adjustment. So I took 12 credits, and that was it. It was 4 classes. But you also want to think about too, because I feel like, it's competitive and there's so much pressure just to get everything done. But you want to remember, even if you think you can handle the credits, and it depends on your personality, right? Like Karen's obviously fine with it, but you want to try to get the most out of your classes. So you don't want to be cramming in, 19 credits a semester and you're just getting by with C's and everything, because then you're not getting what you're supposed to out of these classes that you're paying good money for, that you need for your career. So, don't feel like that's the path you have to take. Again, there's a lot of you have to think about what's right for you and your personality. You want to get the most out of your classes, right? So maybe it's better to spread them out a little bit, but really have the right amount of time to study for it and get the most out of it, right? So get an A in the class because you've got the right amount of time to devote to it. So you don't, again, some people have that, you know, they're very organized and they have a goal and they would like to just get it done, and that works very well for some people. But don't feel like that's what you have to do, because remember, these are classes. This is, you know, you're getting the opportunity to learn all this cool stuff. You don't want to just be getting by in your classes because you've got too much on your plate and you're interning and you're taking 19 credits and it's just too much and you feel overwhelmed, right? What's the fun in that, right? So you want, if you can do it at a better pace because that's what feels better to you, right? You want, because that way you're getting the most out of your education, right? You know, be a student first, right? Get the classes done, and then, you know, not that you shouldn't be getting work experience along the way, but you need to get the education part done too. So again, it's really, again, you have to think about what's best for you.
And we have a few questions from our transfer students. So any of the transfer students, you're going to be hearing a presentation from me. If you didn't sit in on one about 2 I'm going to be running one next Friday. We're going to talk about how you guys would declare a major. You basically will fill out a declaration of major form with Moore, who's the transfer advisor. We have just a registration session. It's not called an academic planning and advising session because we're having the dean put your schedules together. But as long as those 6 pre-business classes are completed when you arrive to us in September, so even if you're doing some of those pre-business over the summer, as long as they're completed by September, you will be able to declare your major and go right into those 12 business core classes and coursework in your major. And again, our dean will be putting your class schedules together as a transfer student because you don't have any wiggle room. You don't take what I call GPA boosters or liberal arts and science classes in already from a community college and you're compliant with the statewide transfer agreement. You guys, it's kind of pedal to the metal. You guys are taking all coursework that you need. So for a transfer student, unlike a first year student where they have freshman shock, you guys have transfer shock. So again, we kind of need to bring you in, and that's why we're going to schedule you guys, because we know what you need to take to make you successful, because it's all about what Professor O'Rourke talked about. It's about being successful and making the most of your time. So again, you can change the schedules that we prepare for you, but I wouldn't, because we know how the courses really need to roll out to make you the best student and to get acclimated to Rutgers, because it will be a different learning style.
And then Sam, did you want to add something about credit load from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, for the first year students, the first semester is a really good time to kind of go light and just get a feel for how you learn best in a college setting, because then after that you can make a decision. Like my first semester, I took 15 credits, and then when I looked like at the end of the semester when I was scheduling my next semester, I figured I could probably handle some more and decided to take 19 credits the following 2 semesters. But that was a decision that I was only able to make because I was able to experience one semester going kind of like a mid-sized course load and really just understanding what kind of student I am and how much I'm able to handle.
You gave yourself that time to get acclimated, right? And then you can kind of see, right? Better to come in strong your first semester and get good grades, right? You don't want to overdo it. And then, like I said, it's better to put in the time and get the most out of your classes than take on too much and you're just kind of getting by in all of them, right? Because that's not fun for anybody, right? Take some time to have fun your first semester, make friends, right? Easy class load. Ease into it.
Definitely don't like overwhelm yourself with classes.
Gotta have a little fun while you're here too, right? If there's any time left over. All right, do we have any other questions? Is there anything that we missed in the chat box? I feel like we've gone through. Anybody have any last questions? I think we've answered everything. And I think that's probably about it, right? So again, feel free to reach out. Again, if you have any last questions, feel free to send them in through the chat box now. It looks like we're probably winding down a little bit, but feel free to reach out. You have my contact information, Christine's. The recording should be posted, I would say, within the next few days, so you're free to watch it back, right? If you need to reference anything and you have information about all the other sessions. Right, do you guys have any last things to add before we go? Anybody? So I just, for everyone that, well, let's see. Does anyone know the answer to the living learning community?
I'm answering.
There is not one specific to accounting, but we do have a general business. The Business Discovery House is for, it's essentially for the business school as well. So that's generalized, but there is no specific LLC for accounting.
Right. And you have the LLC for entrepreneurship. I think I spelt it wrong. I butchered that, but that's what I meant. Entrepreneurship and just business. So you can actually request that on your housing application if you wanted to live in one of those living learning communities.
And I'm just
Also,
oh, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to say one other thing about, besides Beta Offside, there's also the Rutgers University Accounting Association. So that's just the general student club you can join at Rutgers for if you don't want to apply and go through that process for Beta Offside. We do have a general student-run club for that as well.
And I just put, again, our contact information up here on the screen again, if anybody needs it. Again, even if you have questions for any of the students, right, for Sam or Karen or Joe that were on the panel tonight, you send them to me and I could always forward them along. But you have my contact information and Christine's. So feel free to reach out if there's any other questions. And like I said, you have the link to the recorded session, so feel free to check those out as well. So I guess if there's no other questions, so I just want to say thank you for everyone that took time out of your evening to join us tonight. So a special thank you to everyone that helped answer questions, right, to our students and moderators, and for all of you, new Rutgers students that are interested in accounting that took time out of your night, right? If maybe you're on your spring break this week, or you took time out from your remote learning to join us. So we really appreciate you spending the time. I hope we were able to answer everyone's questions. And again, if not, feel free to reach out with anything, right? But I guess if there's no other questions, right, so that's it. So again, thank you to everyone for joining us. I hope you all have a great night. And we hope to see you soon at Rutgers, right? Hopefully in person, right? Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Good night, guys.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.